This is ABC15 Mornings.
Unemployment money vanishing overnight, some losing thousands with no explanation. So we're getting to the bottom of these ongoing issues.
And we've had some extra time this year, but that tax deadline is now just days away. We're talking taxes with a financial expert.
We broke a record temperature yesterday, and it's only going to get hotter today. How to stay safe in these extreme conditions. We definitely want you to stay as cool as you can on this Sunday morning. We think it's pretty cool that you're starting it off with us. I'm Nohe Graff.
And I'm Mark Thompson, social distancing from home. And Nohe, I've been here over a year. I still haven't seen a monsoon yet, but I've been greeted with plenty of heat. So that's one thing.
Yeah, that's one thing you can definitely count on when you come to the Valley of the Sun. That's how we get the nickname. More of that heat on the way, and we are all just craving some monsoon action, but we're going to have to wait a little bit longer here. Temperatures already warm this morning, 94 degrees in the Phoenix metro, 91 in Mesa. We're in the low 90s, at least in Glendale and Goodyear. You at least started off the morning in the upper 80s. We're also seeing a little bit of cloud cover out there from a disturbance that passed through overnight, hanging on, but I don't think any moisture comes out of those clouds. Here's what our warm-up looks like this morning. We're going to be in the 90s through about 9 o'clock. Then by 10, we hit those triple digits. By lunchtime, it's already going to be 108 degrees. So you can see already, hour by hour, how much hotter it's going to be each hour today as we climb toward that peak temperature. I'll talk about how hot it is going to get, and our record is in jeopardy today. We'll go over that coming up in just minutes.
All right, Nohe, thank you. Breaking overnight, Scottsdale firefighters investigating after an apartment fire near Thomas and 61st Place. The flames broke out at Shadow Bend Apartments just before 2 a.m. this morning. Officials tell us, thankfully, no one was hurt. Now to the coronavirus pandemic and the number of cases here in Arizona. And take a look here, the numbers, they continue to grow. And within the past 24 hours, the state closing in on almost 120,000 cases, more than 3,000 new ones reported just yesterday. 69 new deaths were also reported, bringing our total to more than 2,100.
And as coronavirus cases surge across the country, governors are issuing mandates for citizens to wear masks in public in various states. This as President Trump wears one in public for the first time while visiting wounded soldiers. ABC's Karina Mitchell has more.
President Trump visiting COVID first responders and wounded soldiers at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center Saturday wearing a mask, something he had not yet done publicly. His visit coming amid disturbing new numbers from across the country. The 7-day average of fatalities in South Carolina, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California nearly doubling in the last month. Louisiana's governor issuing a statewide mask mandate and rolling back reopening plans.
It's become clear to me, especially after the numbers that we saw yesterday, that our current restrictions are not enough.
And in Texas, state officials reported a record, more than 10,000 confirmed cases, the highest since the pandemic began. Governor Greg Abbott says he's willing to consider further restrictions to stop the spread. A 30-year-old San Antonio man died after attending a so-called COVID-19 party, a trend where young people intentionally gather with someone who's infected.
He thought the disease was a hoax. He thought he was young and he was invincible and wouldn't get affected.
Karina Mitchell, ABC News, New York.
Looking ahead, the big question, of course, that a lot of people have is, when will we have a vaccine? Our partners at Newsy asking the White House Coronavirus Task Force, Dr. Deborah Birx, and she says there's not a timeline yet, but she's optimistic that there will be a vaccine because several are in the works right now using different methods to fight the virus.
They're all after the same thing. They're all after cellular and humoral immunity and neutralizing antibody, but approaching it with three very different scientific approaches really gives me hope that one of those is going to result. If we only had one and one approach, I would be concerned.
Dr. Birx says when that vaccine is available really is going to depend on the clinical trials and how quickly volunteer to participate in them.
Meanwhile, a promising new treatment to help lessen the effects of COVID-19 is now on its way to Arizona. Governor Ducey tweeting that the state will be receiving 361 cases of remdesivir It is an antiviral drug that has worked well in recent chemical trials. Well, now to our big story this morning. Where is the money? Some Arizonans, they are receiving unemployment, but they recently found out that their bank accounts were wiped out. That money no longer there. ABC 15's Adam Waltz has more.
Unemployment money vanishing overnight, some losing hundreds, others thousands of dollars with no explanation.
It's panic mode. It's panic mode. People woke up this morning with no money.
Sean Brady had more than $5,100 taken from his account Friday night with no notice.
They finally got this payment. They finally were able to square away getting this unemployment that's been backed up for weeks. They think they're in the clear. You think you're safe. And then something like this happened.
The only notification, an email saying your account has been closed at the request of your employer. And Sean was far from alone.
My money was zeroed out. I had $0 in my account.
The money was taken from Bank of America prepaid cards, one of the options to receive unemployment money in Arizona.
I was just kind of panicked about how did this evaporate? How did this money evaporate? Who has authorization to take it?
Karen Kolb, who lost $4,100, reached out to Bank of America, who referred her back to the state, who stated Saturday evening they're aware of the situation and are investigating alongside Bank of America.
There are some people in dire straits right now. That was it. That was all they had.
The accounts being drained seem to be from people who file for unemployment here in Arizona but live in another state. The cost for all that loss of money is still under investigation. In Phoenix, Adam Waltz, ABC 15, Arizona.
Yeah, it would still be a pretty shocking thing to discover. Thanks, Adam. Now let's talk about going back to school. It should be happening in just a few weeks. In fact, just by the end of the month for some school districts. But this morning, we now know that several districts are pushing back their in-person start dates once again beyond the governor's executive order, which was August 17th. So far, we know that Washington Elementary, Paradise Valley Unified, Osborne School District, and Scottsdale Unified will all continue distance learning through at least Labor Day. Alhambra Elementary, Phoenix Elementary, and Phoenix Union High School District pushing it even further than that through October 2nd. Here's what Phoenix Union Superintendent had to say about their decision.
We've realized that our effort and energy is going in the wrong direction, and that our effort needs to be focused on the core of our work, teaching and learning, and the wellness and success of our staff and our students and our community.
These are pushing back the start dates for in-person learning. They'll still start online learning, much in the same way that they ended the school year. We're trying to make it easy for you to keep tabs of the plans at your child's school. If you head to abc15.com/schools, we have a list from all of the districts on what they're doing, and we're continuing to update it for you.
And an important reminder this morning, as many of you may be thinking of hitting the pool, you've just got to keep an eye out on the kids when you're around water. Just things can happen in a split second. A 3-year-old girl rushed to the hospital yesterday in serious condition after she was found at the bottom of a pool. This happened at a home near 111th Avenue and Indian School in Avondale. Fire officials say that the family lost track of her while fishing at the community lake. Officials do not know how long she was underwater, but say that there was no fence around that pool.
Now let's get to that most accurate forecast on this Weather Action Day. Yesterday we hit 115 for the first time in 2020. Today we're on record watch. 116 is the forecast high. The record is 115, so it'll be a tight squeeze, but I do think that we will break that record. Tomorrow the forecast high is 112. The record is 114, so we'll see about that one. But bottom line, it is going to be hot for the next couple of days still. That's why those excessive heat warnings remain in effect through Monday evening. So do what you can to keep yourself safe, your family, your pets, and check on your vulnerable neighbors. Clouds and radar showing us overnight. We did have a disturbance that continued to pass through our south. That's where all this cloud cover came from that we're seeing this morning. And there is another chance for some storm activity once again today in the high country. So I'll show you how that times out coming up in that full, most accurate forecast.
6:09 now on your Sunday morning. Still ahead, the search continues in Southern California for missing Glee star, and she was last seen boating with her 4-year-old son. We'll have an update on that straight ahead. Plus, Disney World reopening over the weekend as COVID cases continue to rise in Florida and around the country for that matter. How the park is making changes for your safety. Welcome back, everybody. The search continues in Southern California for missing actress Naya Rivera. Yesterday, her mother and brother arriving at the lake as dive teams searched that water for the 33-year-old. The Glee star was seen a few days ago at the lake with her 4-year-old son.
Our goal is to bring the family some closure. It's a traumatic time for them. They're devastated.
A sonar system is now being used in that search effort. This video shows how crews can scan the bottom of the lake in difficult conditions, even in the dark. Now, this is a complicated search because officials say that the terrain underwater is uneven and littered with trees and debris. Well, this morning, Robert Mueller is defending his prosecution of Roger Stone. Mueller wrote in an op-ed piece in the Washington Post, it comes a day after President Trump commuted his longtime friend who worked on the president's campaign. Stone is a free man now and will not have to report to prison on Tuesday. His convictions still stand after being found guilty of witness tampering, obstruction, and lying to Congress. The president said that he commuted Stone because he was being treated badly by Democrats. Now to Your Voice, Your Vote. Presidential candidate Joe Biden, the predicted Democratic winner of the Louisiana primary. On the Republican side, CNN projects that President Trump is the victor. Both are already the presumptive nominees for their parties. They are showing Louisiana, it just adds more delegates to their total. Now to Florida, where Walt Disney World is reopening now. It did so yesterday, and nearly 4 months after that park closed due to some coronavirus concerns. That park welcoming back visitors. Visitors are now required, however, to wear masks. Temperature checks are in place as well. Attendance, it was capped as well. Some are questioning the park opening while the state is still seeing an increase in cases. The county where Disneyland is located, there were 476 cases in the last day, 12% testing positive.
It's an unavoidable reality that COVID cases are surging in Florida, in this part of Florida especially. Is it safe to be opening Disney World right now?
Well, this is our new world. This is the world that we now live in. So we feel like now, in this new normal that we're in, is the right time to open.
Other changes include characters. They will only be able to greet guests from a distance and are discouraged to have gatherings with pop-up parades.
Staying on the East Coast right now, cleanup efforts are underway in New Jersey as Tropical Storm Faye made landfall on Friday. Crews working through the weekend to remove downed trees that pulled down power lines as well. Residents are also waiting for flooding on some of the streets to recede because you can see some of the video there. It's still pretty high, knee-high weather still in some water, I should say, in some places. Quite the opposite here on the West Coast. Boy, wouldn't we love to see some heavy doses of rain, but we're going to have to continue to wait. Our heat alerts remain in effect today and through tomorrow evening. That excessive heat warning you can see everywhere in pink still in effect, and that heat advisory just north of the Grand Canyon as well. So that says to you that hot temperatures are in store across the state once again, and that means that most people are at risk if you don't find ways to cool down. You want to limit your time outside in the sun if you can. Stay hydrated as well. Wear that sunscreen and that sun protection, anything to limit your time exposed to the sun. Temperatures right now, it's another warm start to the morning, 94 degrees. The record low high temperature is 91, so we've likely set another record this morning, and we'll continue to watch that record today as we warm up. It'll be 108 degrees at lunchtime already, and then that peak heat of the day 116 by 4 o'clock. That's when you really want to limit your time outside. The record is 115, so we'll be watching that. City by city, 116 is the expected high temperature in Ahwatukee, Tempe, and Mesa, as well as Scottsdale, 115. in Gilbert and Chandler. 113 the forecast high in Santan Valley, Fountain Hills, Cave Creek. 111 is your forecast high. We've got some warmer temperatures over in the West Valley too. 117 in Litchfield Park, Avondale and Levine. 116 in those Deer Valley neighborhoods, as well as Buckeye. Wickenburg warming to 115 today, so another hot one for you. Our temperatures in triple digits pretty much statewide, at least south of the rim. Even if you're heading to Sedona, Prescott, or Payson, expect to see the century mark there. So even remember, if you're going to a lake, say in the high country, with triple digit temperatures, it's still hot outside that water, so you still have to make sure that you're hydrating just as much as you would here. 114 is that forecast high in Casa Grande, 116 in Gila Bend, same temperature in Yuma and Quartzsite. If you go further north up to Flagstaff, you can escape the triple digits at least, low 90s in Flagstaff, mid 90s in Heber and Show Low. You'll also see some breezier conditions today, around 5 to 15 miles an hour across the high country between noon and 7 o'clock. Around dinner time, we'll see some stronger breezes around 10 miles an hour here in the valley. But the real wind maker is going to come tomorrow, where we'll see sustained winds of 20 miles an hour across the high country, northern Arizona, which means we could see gusts upwards of 30 miles an hour. We'll also see some gusty winds possible in the Show Low area. Here in the Phoenix metro area, second half of the day, we'll see winds around 15 miles an hour with gusts up to 20 miles an hour. And that's timing out with some potential storm activity that starts today around lunchtime north of the rim. It becomes more widespread as we get closer to that peak heat of the day right around 4 o'clock. We could see some isolated thunderstorms in the areas of the rim north of Payson. We could also see some isolated thunderstorm activity east of Casa Grande and near the Safford area today. Then it all clears out tonight, and tomorrow we see the same slight chance for storm activity once again in the second half of the day. So that heat advisory stretches into Monday as well. That's why it's still a weather action day with highs at 112 degrees. And then we're only backing off by a couple of degrees by the time we hit Tuesday and stretch out the rest of the work week. No more heat advisories in effect, but certainly still take those extra precautions to stay hydrated and healthy as our temperatures stay right around 110.
Coming up, there are only a few days left to file your taxes. We'll get some advice from a financial expert. That's coming up after the break. Plus, will we see a COVID-19 shot anytime soon? We're learning more about the companies rushing to create a vaccine.
Well, the middle of summer is certainly not when we typically talk about taxes, but things are a little different this year because of the coronavirus. We got an extension. So Graham Williams is joining us from Optimus Retirement Group. Graham, that deadline fast approaching now.
Right, July 15th. And you have to remember that what you have to do is you have to make sure you've paid your taxes for 2019 by July 15th. And you can file an extension to October to file your tax return, but you have to have paid by the 15th. And so you don't want to make a mistake here, because obviously that can trigger possible penalties and potentially an audit. So we need to get on that.
And we can still get, if you haven't filed yet, you can still get that stimulus check as well if you file before this deadline.
That's correct. Yes. Yes. This is your tax payment deadline. You can wait to file your return until October if you file an extension.
Now, things are a little different for retirees this year as well who are filing.
Right. So this year, there's a lot of things in the CARES Act that passed recently for retirees. First of all, typically, if you're over 72, you have to take a required minimum distribution from your tax deferred accounts. That's a 401k or an IRA. You do not have to do that this year. One of the other things, so you can delay basically paying tax on that income if you don't need the income. The other thing that happened this year is if you want to make charitable contributions, which are very important right now, there's a lot of charities that need money because of the economic situation we're in, you can make a $300 above the line, so to speak, contribution to charity and deduct it. Typically, you would have to itemize to take your charitable deductions, but itemization has become less common because the tax deductions have gone up significantly under the new tax law. So retirees can still make a contribution and not take their distribution. So there could be a lot of tax benefits for retirees.
Now, some people had it together. They filed when they were supposed to back in April. But you're saying that it also is certainly not too early to start getting things together so that you're prepared for the next tax season.
Right. The first thing I would think about is looking at your withholding for your paycheck withholding. File a W-4 based on the new tax withholding tables because they are reduced. And so you don't want to make an interest-free loan to the government, so to speak, by over withholding. And obviously in these times, people can't necessarily wait for that money to come back to themselves. So that's the first step that's really important. Another thing I think is important is to look at your retirement plan contributions, and if you can, maximize those. That is a great step to plan for retirement and also to control taxes currently. And it's an important step in an overall plan. At Optimist, we believe that you have to sort of weave this into an overall retirement plan. Maximize your contributions, how you're distributing that amongst your investments and so on is very important.
You know, I think this year, Graham, also because of the change in the tax deadline and because of how people have been working, and if they've gotten any of those government loans, they're probably going to need a lot of extra help when it does come time to file that next round of taxes. So let us know how we can get that help with you guys.
Well, on our website at optimistretirement.com, for example, we have a calculator to help you figure out those withholding limits so that you're not over or under withheld. The other thing I can't stress enough is it's important, especially as you get closer to retirement, to sit down with a tax advisor and a financial planner to create an overall plan when you consider that I don't have to take RMDs and I can delay taking income. That might be really important right now, along with also considering the economic environment wherein people want to save as much money as possible.
I think now more than ever, we've also learned that valuable lesson that it's okay to ask for help when you need it, and that certainly seems to apply here. So Graham, we always appreciate your help in walking us through what can be a pretty sticky topic when it comes to tax. So we appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Nohe.
Well, coming up, an easy-to-take COVID-19 test with faster results right here in the Valley. Plus, the virus hitting our tribal communities particularly hard, but it's also highlighting other issues on native lands.